What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Rezolve AI. I want to go over some of the data points, what's moving it today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Rezolve's down 5.4%, 224 the high, 214 the low. So kind of a boring day, not much activity in all fairness, but it does match with extremely low volume, so 10.4 million shares being traded. Nothing really coming out from Rezolve today, so no official news. There was a couple SEC filings that did come out, which I will share with you in a second, but we did have some data that came out. So today we did have initial jobless claims that came in at 206, forecast of 229. Relatively positive stuff. Of course, that's kind of what generally the Feds were under the impression, that labor data is either stagnant, if not improving. So the market might be kind of freaking out a little bit because of that, and how that might not allude to a cut for the upcoming March meeting. We did get some Philly manufacturing data, came in at 16.3, forecast was 7. That is huge. And so not just this, every manufacturing data point over the last 1 month has been signaling that there is extreme expansion occurring. So again, that's kind of the basis of what's moving the market. We are also having Walmart's earnings. This is something, for those of you that tuned into my weekend video, I did say that Walmart's earnings was going to be the big deal for kind of this whole week, because we've seen it in the past where if they signal some kind of rough waters ahead, that's kind of a nice way of putting it, then the market freaks out. And that's unfortunately exactly what did happen. So Walmart didn't really give the best future guidance. And then over and above all of that, you have geopolitical issues associated to Iran. So the market's kind of digesting all of that. In Rezolve's case, like I mentioned, there was no news. Similarly, on social media, this was the last post on February the 17th. So nothing too crazy in my opinion. It might be unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people tend to disagree with kind of my stance on some things, but I think in all fairness, if you kind of look at the data, don't get so emotionally involved, you kind of know where Rezolve is going to go. So one thing that did come out, or I guess two things, was this right here. So on the 17th, there was 2 amended 13Gs, one signaling that Citadel reduced their position, as well as this one right here. So looks like Citadel reduced their position from 15.6 million to 1.5. That might be a positive thing. I know a lot of people always assume Citadel is up to some malicious act or something, so them reducing their position might be a positive. But we also did have this right here. I'm not going to butcher their name, but they reduced their position 24.4 million to 14.8. So not the best, because they were, from what I can see, a long-term investor. So they kind of did get out, which isn't that great. But again, I feel like just there is a lot of fear in the broader market, so they might be acting based on that. Regarding shorts, they're not doing anything whatsoever today, so they're returning about 4,000 shares, and that's a drop in the bucket considering 33.9 million shares overall are being shorted. 12.96% of the free float is being shorted, so kind of crazy stuff as far as that. DTC is at 1.35 days, so signaling that shorts are still relatively overextended, but in comparison to what shorts were doing, they are rather timid right now. So I think institutions, as well as shorts and everyone and their dog, like, we generally don't know where the market is going, because the market is always forward looking. It wants a catalyst. And unfortunately, based on a lot of the comments that have been coming out and also the positive data, doesn't really justify a rate cut. So in general, a lot of growth and speculative stocks are kind of lagging as far as that. Looking at the options, extremely low volume, so 129,000 in calls, 68,000 in puts. 50% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be kind of not much for this week. In all fairness, it looks like a lot of individuals are assuming that it's going to be above 250 in the foreseeable future. So for instance, next week, bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 250 for this week, and then sub $2 looks like in the foreseeable future. So definitely have a key pivot going on. As far as on the secondary market, only one transaction, and it is a sell, and that is for 327,000. Dark pool transactions for today, I'll give you a quick summary. So these are more commonly linked to shorts as well as hedge funds. You do see a couple of whole numbers such as 100,000. Those are the largest ones from today. So usually that's linked to hedge funds. So hedge funds, it looks like, are kind of selling out today, which is again rather unfortunate. So this is why a lot of my videos, I like to kind of dive deep into where volume is coming from and who might be selling, who's buying, what it all means. So I think just right now, there's just a lot of uncertainty in the broader market. And Rezolve, even though they've been putting out some okay-ish news, I know, again, unpopular opinion, but I don't really, not really jumping up and down over their recent acquisition of Reward. I kind of think that's sketchy, but they need more news associated to American expansion, because if you think about it, that's going to be occurring in Q2, right around the corner. They need to let us know how. What is their roadmap for that? Because if you want institutions to really get behind Rezolve and start buying for the long term, you need to give them a good reason. And as much as they love Europe, Asia, and wherever else they're expanding, like, it's the States. That's kind of where it's at, right? So again, let me know your general thoughts on that. Aside from that, right now with at 215, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 205 is going to be a strong support. Hasn't been tested today, but again, given the trajectory of where Rezolve is going, that's fair to assume that it could be hit tomorrow. We do also have some big data coming out tomorrow, GDP and PCE. 221 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. So it kind of bounced off of that general high for today. And then on the actual chart itself, it's like I said, fairly low volume, but it's not looking great whatsoever. So it is below a lot of the key pivotal moving averages that generally I look at. So the 10, 50, 100, and 200. Stochastic RSI is at 21. So that is considered very oversold. So good piece of news, not fluff PR, but good operational news. Then you could see a nice push higher because of that. But you do have to put a asterisk. It can't be acquisitions, and because I think right now Rezolve, they're kind of tapped out based on Dan's comments on Twitter recently. There's about 100 million, that's what they have in cash equivalents. That's after the most recent Rezolve acquisition, which was 230 million. So they are somewhat, take this with a grain of salt, but they are somewhat running out of money. So yeah, if you kind of read between the lines, that usually results in dilution. So let me know your general thoughts on Rezolve. Are you buying more? Are you selling? I did get, surprisingly, a lot of comments in my last Rezolve video asking when I am buying. So in my opinion, given everything and just the market, I do feel that we will be touching kind of the high ones. That is where I'll start to kind of buy a little bit. Last time I did buy for a little bit of a swing trade was right over here. So I kind of bought that, sold it very quickly. For those of you, again, that kind of watch my videos, I mentioned that I was getting in for a quick swing trade. But aside from that, the writing's been somewhat on the wall that we were going to be kind of trending down. I did miss this one right here, so I didn't really dabble with it during that. But still, as of right now, I feel like there is a little bit more downside in Rezolve, and that could be, again, extended because of the broader market. Let me know your thoughts on Rezolve. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Despite what's been happening in the broader market, many of my swing trades have been absolutely hitting. So worthwhile to kind of pop over there and check that out. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.